We got it. Sorry, that was my error. So, thank you, Tom, for filling in on this underappreciated duty of doing all the tech work, and to Vicki for doing the worship leading for this morning. So, next slide, we have a Western Plains District event called the Pastor Leader Training in Great Bend. And on Thursday, Vicki and Pat and I are carpooling to this event. Our presenter is Josh Brockway. He's a staff member for the Church of the Brethren as Director for Spiritual Formation. So he works with Bible studies and curriculum and all kinds of ways to become more informed about how we can be spiritually sound. So his topic, I have the schedule here, his topic is called Brethren Practice in Changing Times. But I'm renaming it to what I think he's going to talk about is what the world needs, why the world needs the Church of the Brethren. So that's what he's going to be talking about, I think. I don't know exactly what he's going to be saying, but I'm guessing that he's going to be saying that the world very much needs the Church of the Brethren in some of our ways of viewing the world and being in the world and being Jesus in the neighborhood. So one of the reasons that I claim that this is true is because of the books that I keep coming across, that I keep reading. More and more and more people who grew up in an evangelical kind of conservative tradition are shedding that tradition, and they're becoming brethren, or they're becoming Anabaptists, or they're becoming like our heritage. So, for example, they've been taking part of their conversion to take seriously the Sermon on the Mount and the Beatitudes, just like we've always been doing. And Jeff Newman-Lee and I had that discussion last Sunday. All the churches he's attended are taking the Sermon on the Mount seriously, like we've always been doing. So some examples of this, next slide, is this book called Holy Chaos. This is by Amanda Henderson, and she has just been elected to the Littleton City Council District 3 as a city council member. So she was formerly the director of Interfaith Alliance of Colorado, and she's an adjunct professor at Iowa School of Theology, but she grew up in Colorado Springs in a very conservative white environment. And so it's where focus of the family is and Christian media, and so they're very much that evangelical bend. So she grew up and she assumed that all Christians were conservative and Republicans, just like she was. She had never met anybody else who wasn't conservative and Republican until she went to college in Cleveland, Ohio. There she met a Jewish man, some non-Christians, and some liberal Christians. She had no idea that you could be thinking as a liberal and still be a Christian. So she had her eyes open to the things that we have been saying that Jesus has been preaching. Social justice is about peace and justice. There has to be, like Vicki was saying, the blessing and the goodwill and the end to violence for all human beings. So her eyes were opened up into not just a version of white Christianity, but a version of Christianity and of faith that includes all people. So next slide, a new book that Dave Valletta introduced me to is Inalienable. I can't even pronounce this. Inalienable. How marginalized kingdom voices can help save the American church. So these authors are able to say that it's not just America who has the voice, but all the voices of Nigeria and South Korea and all the places where Christianity, China, where Christianity has thrived, are giving us the voices of what Jesus really is and who Jesus really is. So he quotes a former evangelical person, and he says that for that woman, the fire alarm started in 2016 when the then presidential candidate, Donald Trump, admitted to sexual immorality, and evangelical leaders just kind of hid it behind their eyes and said, we support this person wholeheartedly. And then it was more division. She was horrified by this division over critical race theory or diversity, equity, and inclusion. So they could turn a deaf ear to anybody who grew up experiencing racism or oppression because they just ignored it and then swept it under the rug. That was followed by some sexual abuse scandals in people who are very prominent in the evangelical world. And so they had a lot of unease and some cognitive dissonance over what I have been taught is Christian and what is being promoted. And so they began to say, have evangelicals given in to power and given up what Jesus says? Maybe now you can see why I've been saying the Church of the Brethren, the world really does need the Church of the Brethren. But there's more. In the Christian Century, next slide, Christian Century magazine, there's a pastor, Michael Wolff, who was wearing his clergy collar protesting at an Immigration and Customs Enforcement Processing Center near Chicago. One detention officer grabbed Michael Wolff by the neck and punched him, and another officer said, Jesus said, follow the law. And so that stuck with him, and he's been thinking about this. Did Jesus say to follow the law even when the law was harming people and ostracizing people and demeaning people and putting them down? What about the Beatitudes? What about the Sermon on the Mount? The law of love and mercy and justice? Did Jesus say to follow the law even when it allows ICE agents to come inside a church and take people out to detention centers, or come inside a school, which is a safe haven, just as safe for kids? And he began to say, did Jesus say to follow the law? And so Jesus' followers said, and Jesus himself said, next slide, give to Caesar what is, what's on my back one? Give to Caesar, what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's. And so, next slide, the Church of the Brethren decided that they had to break the law with Caesar because they had to give to God what they thought God wanted, which was to be believers as adults, not to be baptized when you didn't make the choice for yourself, but as a reasoning adult person to come to Christ and know that that's what Christ was asking them to promote. That broke the law, and that could have got them punished, put in jail, and even possibly martyred. So we in the Church of the Brethren say that we need to follow our conscience and the community that guides us, and to give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to give to God what is God. Even today, we have people who call themselves conscientious objectors to war that say, my conscience will not allow me to serve in war because I follow King Jesus, and I believe that he was not willing to serve and oppress. So the article, next slide, ends by saying this: if there is anything that I am sure of that Christ would condemn, it is the reduction of the church to a quiet, acquiescing presence that does not speak out strongly to condemn unjust actions. Jesus said to follow the law, but when the law is unjust, Christians must resist. So that's not only Church of the Brethren proclaiming this, but others as well. We've come to this Sermon on the Mount era where we say that this isn't right. We cannot be silent. And evil, the quote, evil only exists when good people tend to only remain silent. So now we have the scripture reading from Matthew to ponder. Here comes Peter, James, and John. They seem to be always the ones picked out by Jesus to go on these field trips. So here's Peter and James and John, and Jesus takes them to a very high mountain, and then he transfigures. His face is shining like the sun. It's so bright, you can hardly even imagine that they could see their clothes are dazzling white. Now this is really strange. I've never seen this. Has anybody seen this? I don't know that any of us have experienced this, but all of a sudden, here's Jesus. He's not only transformed, but he's talking to these two apparitions, and they figured that it's Moses and Elijah, the law and the prophets, and Jesus is speaking to them. What is going on here? They are seeing things that no one else is seeing and no one else has ever seen before. And you know the saying, seeing is believing. Well, they believed what they were seeing. And so Peter, he's kind of the ADHD one of the bunch. He goes, hey, this is great. We should build some tabernacles and some temples, and we should cage this and capture this and keep it right here so that it never gets away from us and we can hang on to this. And, you know, he's wanting to hang on to this unbelievable moment so that he can come back and never forget. And so one commentary says, I can understand Peter's strange instinct to build tents. When hope arrives, I want to bottle it up too. Keep it safe. Stay put and protect it. Instead, Jesus sent them back down the mountain to meet the world and let that shine be exposed to everyone and to be exposed themselves to the vulnerabilities and the death and defeat that Jesus would experience. I can't help but thinking in these days that we're living, if we're not also seeing very strange and unbelievable things that are happening in the news. We've never seen ICE agents shooting American citizens, dragging people out of their cars, arresting them for no crime that they've committed. And part of the news is saying, nothing to see here, don't pay attention, this is nothing, just go shopping or just go about your day, nothing strange here. But other parts of the nation are saying, we see with our own eyes these pictures that have been captured on phones. And these are unarmed citizens who are just using their First Amendment rights to have freedom of speech. And they're being shot and murdered. So we're seeing something strange that maybe we never expected to see in our lifetime. And so we can't hardly believe what we're seeing. So what did Jesus do? What did the people of Jesus' day do when they couldn't believe what they were seeing? Well, Jesus used this phrase when he recruited his first disciples. He said, you don't believe that anything good can come out of Nazareth? Come and see. Come and take a look. Come and join in. And maybe that's what we're supposed to be doing. So I ask, what do you see? What are people of faith doing to respond? What are the injustices that we're standing up for? We have places where we can participate. We can use our First Amendment rights and to say that no one should be harmed who's here and not breaking any laws whatsoever. We also have people who organize. They show up and they bring groceries to people who are afraid to go out of their homes for fear of being detained or arrested. They have people who show up at schools to make sure that no child has to wonder if they will have a parent when they go home, and they show up at court for immigration hearing services to say that no one should be detained without someone there to observe what is happening before they might possibly just disappear and be deported in secret. And our watch, we have the ability to invite people to come and see and come and participate. Come to a food drive, help us with our Super Bowl soup, help us with people that are needing coats and hats that we deliver, sleeping bags that we deliver to the Denver Voice, where Giles Clausen is executive director. And we organize. In our bulletin, every week, we have the address of where the brethren are sending donations for the Deportation Defense Response Team. That goes to families who need legal assistance. That goes to people whose breadwinner is no longer there to provide any income. And so those are places where the church, and we can be proud that our denomination is not remaining silent, but is standing up to speak. We need people to join us in the Sermon on the Mount and to do what we've been taught to do. The world needs glimpses of the kingdom of heaven to come near. We need community, and we need conscience and community. We need the Church of the Brethren. This is our hope, and it's our turn to pass it on to others.